Welcome to Becoming Untriggered, a podcast brought to you by psychodynamic coaches and parents of three, Lavinia Brown and Andrew Lynn.
Together we normalise and unpack common challenges faced by couples and parents, explore how these could be symptoms of unprocessed trauma, and support you with the tried and tested tools for you to show up as the mum or dad, partner, and person you deserve to be. Welcome to Becoming Untriggered podcast. Today we're going to look at stress, how stress can manifest in a relationship, because let's face it, life is stressful. We can't get away from it. However awakened we are, we have lots of different kinds of stress, and it's really important to know how to manage it and process it yourself and not project it onto your partner, because obviously that's not fair on them or your kids, and it can cause all sorts of added tension.
Yeah, so in today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can own stress and how you can process your stress rather than projecting it onto your partner. I think, like Lavinia says, life can be stressful. Certainly it's stressful for us at the moment. We've got a move coming up. We've got kids going to a new school. So everyone in our house is a bit stressed. That's the kind of normal stress that we're all facing in this phase of our life, together with the external stress, stuff like what's going on in the news. You just got to look at the news to see about the impending war and the conflict and everything that's going on. It's easy to take that on board and be stressed. That's the kind of stuff that we're all processing and experiencing in life. And then there's the other type of stress, which is the stress that we create actually with the baggage that we bring from our childhood into our relationship, which can make situations that don't need to be stressful or aren't stressful really, really stressful. And we see that creating a lot of conflict and a lot of issues for our clients. And it did for us as well in the early stages.
100%. I think my speciality is making stress where there isn't any objectively. For example, in terms of triggers, my childhood, I went to boarding school. So my first dormitory where you sleep with other people was full of 13 other girls. You're not going to get to sleep until the last girl fancies going to sleep. So for me, not getting enough sleep and not feeling like I was in control of when I could go to sleep and when I wanted to go to sleep was a really big thing for me. Well, it still is actually. And then I projected it onto my kids when they were little, especially, because I was terrified that when they were really little that they wouldn't get enough for their brain to be developing properly and it wouldn't grow enough. And then when they were slightly older, I didn't want them to be tired for school because that's the pain that I remember. So that was absolutely about my unprocessed pain, i.e. the pain I felt when I was really tired or when I couldn't get to sleep, being projected onto my kids. I wanted them to avoid feeling that tired. So it's about owning that, going back to that original experience that you haven't yet, that felt the pain of, and not projecting that pain forwards onto your kids.
Yeah, I definitely experienced stuff like that as well. I think with me and with a lot of my clients, a lot of it focuses around anxiety, fear, and projecting that onto money, like big picture, safety. Even if you've got money now, like worrying about the money running out or worried about having money in 3 months, that was like a bit of a narrative in my house when I was growing up. So there's a bit of trauma, bit of baggage around that. So again, that's something that I've brought with me into our family. And that again can create stress, but not only stress in the moment, it has the opposite of your desired effect. Because just like you with your sleep, with me with money, if I'm worried about money, if I'm nervous, if I'm anxious about money, if I'm worried about not having any money, then that creates that energy. It creates that vibration, and it's very likely that that kind of thing will then manifest itself.
Also, it's about the way that you cope with it, right? What is your coping mechanism? If your coping mechanism to deal with stress is to try and control, then controlling expenditure in the house is going to have a very negative effect on everyone else if they're not allowed to spend money on an ice cream or whatever it is that the person in financial control deems unnecessary or frivolous. then that's going to affect how other people can spend or not spend.
Well, I remember being out to dinner with the family and kind of sitting there trying to enjoy yourself, but everyone's looking at the menu, but you're looking at the prices. You're kind of worried about what people are ordering, and you're not ordering what you want because of money and worried about money.
But this was from your past.
Exactly. So I'm over worried about money because of my anxiety. I'm attaching it onto money, but I'm bringing that energy to the table. So it's like taking your family out or wanting to be with your family, but then you're bringing that nervous, negative energy with you.
Yeah. And like with the sleep thing, I would get so anxious before, the sleep routine started, especially if it looked like it was going to be a later bedtime than normal, because then you start fixating on the time. The later it gets after whatever set time you've got in your head is a good time for your children to go to sleep, the more anxious and stressed you get about getting them into bed, whatever that takes. And obviously that's not relaxing for anyone, let alone the kids, who are going to feel like they're being shunted into their rooms. They're not going to be able to go to sleep. So what do? They play up.
Exactly. They're reacting to your energy in that situation, which is often the opposite of what you're trying to do.
Yes.
That's when you're trying to get a kid out of the house and you're really angry and really nervous.
They don't understand that you need a break and that you are trying to do this for their benefit. Same with screen time, same with healthy eating. That can be another stress, or it can be another thing that we attach stress onto. You need to eat healthily, you need to eat your green beans, you need to whatever it is. And if we are bringing that kind of urgency to it, because actually what it is soothing us when they eat a green bean or a broccoli, then there's something deeper at play.
So how do you know? How do you recognize, or how does one recognize whether it's the stress of life that you need to manage and discuss and communicate about, or whether it's a trigger, or whether it's some baggies that you can own and process?
Yeah, for me, I call it like a manic energy. It feels quite urgent. So when you're projecting something onto something else, which is actually your desire to be in control or your desire to feel calmer through making someone else do something random, then it feels urgent. So another kind of really classic one is tidiness, accessibility, things being in order. So a lot of my clients will suddenly go on a rampage around the house. They might start rage cleaning. That's their way of processing it, which is not bad. It's not bad as a coping mechanism goes. But ideally, we want to be not just throwing it into some activity, but actually going back a step and realizing what it is first. But many of my clients might go to their partners, "And the garage, I've asked you to do it a million times. I can't find anything in there. How do you expect me to order anything if I don't know where anything is? It's a mess. You need to do it." It's that the needing for something to be done in that moment, straight away, now. That's when you know that there is something not quite right, because the garage doesn't need to be done right now. I mean, unless you're looking for something that needs to be found right now. It doesn't. It'll be fine if it gets done in a week or even a month. So it's that manic energy. The kids need to be in bed now. The garage needs to be clean now. I need you to help me now. It's that manic energy which tells me, hold on, this might be linked to discomfort. It's always linked to discomfort in me.
Do you think it's linked to safety and trying to get external safety because of the feelings that you're feeling right now?
I think it is, and that's a good question, because personal safety, I'm not talking about physical safety, but personal safety is very linked to how you relate to other people. Some people might find more safety in being alone. Some people might find safety in having someone on their side, someone on their team. So when I'm going through with my clients how to inner parent, we're always going through key phrases that might resonate with you. With me, I'm here. You're not alone. I'm on your side. That we've got this. That really resonates with me and with a lot of my clients, because when we were children, we were all on our own. Our parents weren't parents. They were emotionally immature. They were overwhelmed. They were
causing me unsafety a lot of time.
Yeah, that as well. So my parents weren't that source of safety. I want someone strong and stable on my side. So when I get my inner parent to say, it's okay, I'm here, I'm with you, that makes me feel better, which is why I feel safe when I've shared it with you. If I feel like I've persuaded you, inverted commas, to be on my side, to get my stress, then I feel safer. Yeah. But I know that you don't always feel that, right? With you, it's sometimes the opposite. You go off and find that safety through your own.
Yeah, I don't. I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks. I don't outsource any of my problems. So I try, and if I have a challenge that I'm facing, then I will try and find a solution. And that may be to my detriment. I could spend weeks trying to find a solution, but I don't even consider asking somebody for help. I think a lot of men are like that. A lot of my clients are like that. And I think that's actually one of the stumbling blocks that stops people from doing this work, is they don't even sit back to consider, oh, there's a challenge here. Can I get some support? Can I get some help? It's like, there's a challenge here. What action can I take right now? What can I do? And often that leads to kind of short-term solutions. Like, can I earn more money? Can I get fitter? Like, the things that I can control, the decisions that are easier to make.
So it's about sharing, your ability to share. It's about your ability to be vulnerable in front of someone else, perhaps?
Well, I think everyone deals with the stress differently. Like you were saying earlier, it's important to process and not project. So you've got to own it. Like, okay, I feel unsafe or I feel anxious. This person doing the garage or this person doing something for me, that's not actually what I need. I may need them to see me. I may need them to hear me. But I don't need them to go and work for 2 hours in the garage to make me feel safe.
That's the point. The person asking for the support through the other person doing something feels they're on the same team. It might feel like to the other person that they're being bossed around.
Yeah.
But there's something kind of subtle about, if I ask you to do something and you say yes, we're on the same team.
Yeah. But that's, for me, that's pretty dysfunctional. Like,
100%.
You shouldn't need to do that act of service for somebody. And actually, it just creates like a dysfunctional trauma coping mechanism within the couple. And I think we were probably there in some ways. And I think a lot of people are. They're like, the men are like, okay, I want some peace. What's the most important thing to me this weekend? I want some peace. And the woman's like, well, I've got some jobs for you to do because I'm not feeling seen or connected to here. And the man's like, well, I just want peace. So if I can finish these 5 things, I can remember it. Like, okay, I'll cut the grass. Okay, I'll do this. I'll paint this. I'll do the shopping. And then I'll get some peace at the end of it. But that's dysfunctional because you're not actually getting your needs met because you just want to be spoken to or seen or you want some safety. And I'm kind of moving away from you because I'm like, there's no peace here with you. I just want to get these things done. So I've done my job and then I can go and find my peace elsewhere.
Yeah. So acknowledging what you really need underneath it. So like I said, with me, if it's manic, I know, hold on, there's something underneath the stress that needs addressing. Or how can I manage this stress by meeting the need rather than farming it out?
Yeah. How can I own it? How can I process it? How can I fulfill the need within myself? Another way, which is very common with my clients, is worrying about the future. It's like, I feel unsafe in the present moment. I'm dysregulated. Whatever the emotion is within me, I don't feel at peace in the moment. The brain kind of receives that information about unease and anxiety and projects that 3 months into the future. That could be, I'm going to lose my job. We're not going to have any money. I could be ill. I need to control. Like, it can turn up in so many different stories in people's heads. But if you're worrying about something 3 months down the line, or if you're obsessing over the future, then that, for me, is a sign that that's a trauma response. Because you don't naturally go there. The brain doesn't naturally reside in 3 months in the future. If you have nothing directing your brain or taking your brain into the future, then you'll be present most of the time. If your nervous system is regulated and you don't have any anxiety or any emotion in it, you'll just be present most of the time. I was telling you earlier that story about a client of mine who spent most of his time in his head in a spreadsheet, worrying about the family finances. Even though they had lots of money, but he spent all of his time worried about the little financial decisions. Should we get the car fixed? It's going to cost a couple of $100. Should we go out? Should we have a nice holiday, or should we save some money? And he spent all of his time worried about not having money in the future. And then he emailed me, or it was a call, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I haven't looked at the spreadsheet for weeks.
Yeah. So his inner child was looking for safety through the figures.
Yeah.
Or even just reordering the figures, just checking.
He was feeling anxious, and that his inner child felt unsafe, but also his body was dysregulated. So he wasn't embodied. He wasn't present in the moment. His mind was being driven into the future.
Wow.
So, like, just understanding, okay, so I'm not thinking about it now. I'm not thinking about this conversation. I'm worried about work in 2 weeks. I'm worried about a meeting in 2 weeks. If your mind's always in the future, that's a sign there's some work for you to do there, to get back into the present moment.
So I still tend to do that a little bit. If it's something that I'm doing that I know I'm not necessarily in control of, especially if it's something I've never done before. Like the other week, I went back to England, we live in Spain, and had to get a train to London, and the train wasn't working. It was a replacement bus. So that just stressed me out. It stressed me out that I'd never taken that train before. I've never taken that replacement bus before. As it turned out, I was quite right to be worried because the bloody bus never showed up. But that's the kind of catastrophic situation that I worry about. Maybe I manifested it because it's something I've never done before. If I've done it once before, I'm fine.
You spent 2 weeks before the bus didn't turn up, worried about the bus not turning up.
Totally.
The waste of your energy, waste of your time.
But it's difficult, isn't it? Because I know that. I know that I shouldn't worry about the bus or the train or whatever it is that I haven't done.
So what should you have done in those 2 weeks leading up to the bus incident?
I can keep inner parenting myself, keep validating myself. I think that's the bit that so many people forget, me included. We can soothe ourselves. Like I say to my clients, I'm just practicing. We're all just practicing. I think you're better sometimes at noticing, or maybe it's easier in another person. You often say to me, is that how you speak to your inner child? Whoops. Because I forget that my inner child is there. I forget that the part of me that's worrying is my inner child. Of course it is.
Well,
my
patterns have
adult
been running for a long time.
But my adult knows that I'm capable. It's not about logic. No. Of course I'm going to manage to get to London in some way, in some form. And I did. But I forget in the moment that I'm anxious that I can be soothed. And perhaps it's because, maybe we've touched on this before, we tend to at first relate to our inner child in the way that our parents related to us, which is not helpful to have that as a role model, particularly if you've had attachment trauma. My parents would have told me to stop moaning. I would have been sent to my room. I would have been hit or whatever it was. They didn't want to deal with my worry. That wasn't particularly allowed. So that's what I do in myself. My first go-to will be to shut myself down, be like, oh, don't be ridiculous. And part of me thinks, well, I am dealing with it. I'm telling my inner child not to be ridiculous because she is being ridiculous. Because of course I'm going to get to London. But that's when you sometimes go, is that how you speak to your inner child?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Yeah, the first part
of course my inner child is not ridiculous.
And I think that's one of the inner parenting is a big thing, right? A lot of people have heard about it now. But it's not as easy as just talking to your inner child. Yeah. And again, I had the experience with a client the other day who was trying to inner parent, but he had a list of things that he was kind of saying to his inner child without listening, without holding space, because again, that was his experience.
Yeah.
So when you delve into the journey of inner parenting and inner child work, you have to relearn about how to communicate with yourself.
Definitely.
Because everybody's inner voice, inner critic or inner voice is that of their parent.
Or a figure of authority.
Could be a figure of authority.
Yeah, so it's about validating in perhaps the way that you would want to be validated or that you would validate your children. Again, my clients find it quite hard to validate their kids because they are just automatically reacting to their kids like their parents reacted to them. So it's just winding it back. So when I'm teaching people how to do it, sometimes I say, have a think, journal out. What would you have loved to have said or to have done to you last thing at nighttime, before bedtime? Because that is often a time that parents are able to be that loving, kind, compassionate person.
That's where kids feel vulnerable and kind of alone, potentially. That's where the fears come out. That's where the monsters come out in the bed. So that's...
I mean, I still found that hard because I didn't particularly get there at bedtime. So I still didn't get that. But I think even more obvious perhaps is imagine your child fell over, right? They've fallen over, they've scraped their knee. What would you say? Again, many of my clients, it might be like, don't be silly, it's fine, it's nothing. You're fine. But what would you want to have had said to you? Yeah. Oh, you poor thing. It's that validation bit. So many people, like your client, jump to this, you're okay, it's going to be fine. That's basically gaslighting.
Even I love you, like, I love you, I see you.
I love you, you're fine.
And me and the child's like, no, you don't. You're not listening to me. Like, I'm saying I'm anxious and you're saying you love me. That's not hitting the spot.
Yeah. You don't want to gaslight that child. So you've got to put in, are you feeling anxious? Yeah. Wow.
You listen to that. Let's take the example of you with the bus. You listen to that. Okay, so I'm worried about a bus in 2 weeks. So I know maybe there's some baggage there, right? I know maybe that's a disproportionate reaction. How does that feel right now in my body? What's going on? Oh, I'm scared. Oh, I'm alone. Oh, I'm scared of being alone. I'm scared of being out of control. I'm scared of going to get lost. You're like, okay, so that's come up now. So it's obviously trauma from the past. That's the message I'm getting. That's a feeling that was repressed in those moments. Okay, that's how my inner child felt. Okay, so the message then is, okay, well, I'm here with you.
But even before then, no, I think even before then, it's like, you're feeling really scared. Yeah.
Well,
that's really scary. For me, I like that bit. You're feeling really scared. I get it. That's really scary. So with my clients, what I find that they skip a lot of because their parents didn't do this bit, because their parents couldn't deal with this bit, is the validation. Their parents couldn't deal with their discomfort. It was too overwhelming for them because they didn't know how to regulate themselves. So no one's ever said to them, yeah, that's really scary. It sounds really, really scary. Even if it isn't. Obviously, not being in control about a bus timetable isn't scary, but it is to that part of me. So to have my inner parent say, that's really scary. Yeah, I get that. That must feel really terrifying.
Yeah.
Just having someone agree with you is, it's okay. I'm allowed to feel this. I'm normal. I'm not abnormal, because so many of us were made to feel like our reactions were abnormal, too dramatic, too whatever it was. So normalizing that validation bit is really helpful for my clients and me.
Yeah. And I think it's a great point that there are different layers of the trauma. There's maybe a rejection, a fear, and then there's a not being listened to, or something else not being validated. And it all comes up in the process. Right, so you've got to put the foundation and the steps together to create the safety for your inner child, and then integrate, find those words or find the connection that does the integration work.
Yeah, so in a way, inner parenting as a process will bring up your trauma. Like you got a lot of validation as a child, because I know your mum, she's really good at that. I got none. Yeah. So for me, the validation part, and for a lot of my clients, is very important.
100%. And I think as one of the main benefits actually of working with somebody is for somebody to go, okay, well, this is the block I'm feeling. I'm trying this inner parenting thing, and like I just can't connect with that person. I had a client the other day that just couldn't connect with the inner child, couldn't hear the inner child, was completely hijacked by the emotions of the inner child. And we went a layer deeper, and it was the part of her that got completely overwhelmed by big emotions. There's a part of her that just wasn't listening. Right? So when her inner child came up, that part of her kicked in. And she was like, I can't hear this. I can't process it. So as soon as we brought that into the consciousness, she was like, okay, I understand what's happening now.
Mm.
I'm having a reaction to the emotion of my inner child that's part of the trauma.
Because that's what my parents did to me.
That's how I felt. And it was actually her mother's emotion that she couldn't deal with as a child that made the child do that. And she was having the same reaction to her inner child. Yeah. So it's complicated.
Definitely.
And like when you're in it, if you're like reading a book on inner child work, trying to like parent your inner child, it's really hard.
Which is why I said the two labels I give my inner child are ridiculous and pathetic. They're the two, and you're like, is that how you speak to your inner child? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, part of me does. Yeah, that is exactly how part of me speaks to my inner child. It's not the part I want speaking to my inner child. It's not going to get me anywhere. But that's my initial reaction often. So kind of going back to how we cope with stress, right? Different stresses. There's this other layer of big stress and small stress. I think many people that are more able to deal with big stress sweat the small stuff, and vice versa. So often you'll find in a couple that one that does one thing is attracted to someone else who does the other. And that's not just romantic relationships, right? It's also friendships. I know that in friendships, I've had many really good friends who I'm not friends with anymore because we haven't been able to sort out this difference between how we cope with stress. So some of my clients come to me saying, I feel really rejected by my friend. That friendships come into the work because my friend's been blanking me for a year and I don't understand why. Or my friend blanked me for 6 months and then she came back on the scene and she said, she didn't really apologize. She said, I've been suffering from a lot of stress. And the other person is like, but I get that. And I would have been here for you. Why didn't you say? Why didn't you tell me that you needed space to process it? If one person needs space to process stress and one person would rather vent or share, which is definitely me, and not only is there not room for two people doing the same thing, usually, you need the other person. That creates balance. But you can only have balance within these opposites if you're both aware of each other's coping mechanism. Otherwise, the one that's kind of retreating in order to process stuff, it can feel to the other one like they're being rejected.
Yeah.
So, and also the venting.
Create its own stress and trauma in the relationship.
Yeah. And the person venting can also feel overwhelming, right?
Exactly. If you're used to dealing with stress on your own, or if you're stressed already, to have somebody, have a partner that wants to vent, it can feel like they're just piling their stress on top of yours.
Yeah. Trauma dumping.
Trauma dumping. So I think neither of the, if you're just reacting unconsciously, then it can cause problems in the relationship. But if you can communicate and say, okay, well, this is what I need, but I understand that may be uncomfortable for you, and work your way around it, then you can meet in the middle a little bit as well. Because I've probably gone a bit towards you in that I feel a bit more comfortable being vulnerable now. I feel a bit more comfortable sharing the process. I don't necessarily need to go away and have all the solutions before I come back to you. Actually, that's something that I recognize from my childhood, needing to do that. But I no longer need to do that as much anymore.
And hopefully I'll vent less. I'm not sure.
I think you definitely do. Like I said earlier, there's a lot less to-do lists. There's a lot less of you just needing me there to be safe. I think you're much better at, you're much safer within yourself. You're much more healed.
I think I'm better at saying I think I'm better at naming it. I think I'm better at not being taken over by the emotion and being able to name it. And from that place, asking for support.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the best way to deal with the stress of life in a relationship. Right? Just owning it, naming it, understanding how each other manages it, supporting each other if we need it, also giving the other person space. Like, okay, you're stressed. I'll take on this. You go and relax, or you do what you want to do. What do you need to do?
And also giving the other person space to realize that they're stressed. So going back to the garage issue, you said it's not, you used to do the things because you wanted the reward at the end, the peace. I don't think it's necessarily about not doing things in that moment, or perhaps doing one of the things and then going, Would you like a break? How about you go and do some yoga, or do you want the afternoon off without the kids? Like, you don't have to like, no, I'm not going to do your to-do list because you're projecting your stress onto me. But just giving that other person a little bit of breathing space by doing one thing, maybe, if that's what they need you to do. And then going, should we talk about this, or what's going on? Or I feel really stressed. Are you feeling stressed?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think you solve any of the problems in the to-do list. It's not like a rejection of the to-do list. The to-do list is a symptom of our processes. Like, I've got better at maybe setting boundaries and being more proactive in my life. And you can kind of see that. You're like, okay, I've just got some stuff under control. And you're more safe and more regulated in yourself. So the to-do list just disappears. Like, you're never going to solve it in that moment, but it's a reflection of both of our inner work, our journey. So that's how you deal with the problems of life that we're all facing. The second problems are the ones that we've been discussing, the problems that you bring into the relationship with the baggage from the childhood, right? And that's about taking responsibility for those, owning it and processing it, not projecting it, not needing the solution to come from the other party.
And going back to basics, acknowledging that you will have stuff from your childhood. It is guaranteed that you have stuff. No one is coming to a relationship without it. You learn about the world from your parents. It's why often it's not until you're 20 or something that you realize, oh, I thought everyone did this. So not only are you learning, that's why it's called attachment trauma, not only are you learning how to connect with your parent or whatever the blocks are to that connection that you need, but you're also witnessing them connecting with each other or not. So you must admit before anything comes up that stuff will come up. There is no shame
I don't
there.
think a lot of people understand that. I see so many comments on our posts that say, my husband just won't open up emotionally and we're going to get divorced, or I don't feel supported, or my husband doesn't do anything around the house, we're going to get divorced. And it's not about that. It's about going one level deeper. What's going on? Why can't your husband open up emotionally?
Yeah.
What do you actually want from him? Talking, communicating on a conscious level.
Stuff is going to be picked up in your past that is going to be unprocessed because you weren't able to at the time. It's going to show up in your relationship. Add to that life stresses.
It's
a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. So there is a lot to handle. Hopefully we've talked a little bit about ways to handle it. Inner child work, as always, because that's what we specialize in. Recognizing when there's that manic quality about your need for the other person to do something, if that's the way that you cope, by projecting onto other people. I know that I also do that with the kids, actually, getting them to tidy their room. So just recognizing when something has an urgent need around it.
Also recognizing when you're not in the present moment. So if a situation or an emotion takes you out of the moment and you don't feel calm and present and embodied, then there's some work to do. Because you need to feel present and embodied to deal with the massive challenges that we're facing today as couples and parents.
Yeah. And we haven't even touched on catastrophizing and black and white thinking, maybe for another talk, but that's also another thing, the ways that you've been taught to view the world, probably from your parents, which can add to stress, make an existing stress much, much bigger. So hopefully that was helpful. Please leave us a review if it was. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear any challenges that you are facing in your couple. Let us know and we can discuss and unpack it for you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
If what we discussed was helpful, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. For more of the same, check out my social media, The Inner Child Healing Expert, or to work with me, go to laviniabrown.com.
You can find me on andrewlynn.net or Life Coach for Dads on Instagram. We work with both individuals and couples. If there are any topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out. Thanks for listening.